Lethal Company is an indie game
Shut the door behind you. Shut the door behind you. Shut the door behind you. Again.
where you have to find scrap to sell to the company.
Much shit.
Who started shit?
Bro, who's showing now?
And avoid dying in the process. There are thousands of hours of content out there from in the game of people dying, messing up, getting terrified, or just having fun. I would highly recommend playing it if you haven't already. But what's most impressive about the game is that all of this was made by one man. This is the story of Zeekerss. Now, Zeekerss is a rather enigmatic fellow, with the only knowledge personally being that he is 21, and he has been around on the internet since the 29th of November 2011 when he joined the little-known online game called Roblox when he was 9. Now, just as a side note, turns out I've had my account on Roblox since the 24th of January 2011. I don't know what happened in 2011, but here we are. At the time, he just did as children do, play games. It wasn't until the 30th of May 2012 that Zeekerss would finally enter the picture of content creation with his brand new channel, Zeekerss Bowser, and the first video called Roblox Crazy Nodester. Now, its quality is just what you'd expect from a 10-year-old. While it can be funny to laugh at this video and look back at it, it is important to remember we all did start from such humble beginnings. The main point here being that Zeekerss was now creating things for the world. And more important than that, stories. He was making stories of bank heists, school shenanigans, and more important than that, horror and scary topics, which might start to seem familiar. After a month, on the 23rd of April 2012, Zeekerss made one of, if not the first of his horror maps that would soon become a staple of his career, Dark Mansion. Now, you can't find this on his main Roblox page, but I'm assuming because he unlisted it, but it is still playable, and here is some footage that I took of my time playing it. Now, a lot of the old scripts are long since dead. That being said, it's quite impressive. He's got door coding, jump scares, and even a trailer on the main page, all at the age of 10. Clearly this had lit a spark in Zeekerss, and he would go on to tinker with this concept. On the 10th of August that year, he started work on Dark Mansion 2, though this has since been privatised, its trailer still is available. The main point being that in these years he was just having fun, playing with friends, making trailers and testing new games. It wasn't until the 4th of February 2014 Zeekerss would release yet another game. But now it's so much more. Breach. With 500,000 plays, you can see how far his development has improved. With background music, sound effects, scripted scenes, and even a story. It was starting to become clear that Zeekerss would go into horror, and he was getting good at it. Despite this, throughout 2014, Zeekerss was also experimenting with the idea of 2D side-scrollers. All of them are quite impressive, and all of them made throughout the span of the year. The first came Guidance on the 25th of March, where a voice would give you advice, but you couldn't really tell if it was telling the truth. Next was A Lucid Dream on the 25th of April, where a voice is telling you to wake up, with a beautiful soundtrack to boot. After this was Rigido on the 25th of November, which was much more atmospheric and actually started to mimic the approach towards horror that he's working into. And lastly, seeming the magnum opus of this entire concept was Doodle, where Zeekerss had taken real-life drawings that he'd made and put them into his game, and you could jump over them. This was released on the 17th of December. Now, Zeekerss projects had just gotten better with time, and on the 25th of March 2015 he would release his biggest project so far, Lightbulb. With 2.5 million visits, its own soundtrack, sound effects, and a simple premise, Escape the Maze. Honestly, even I got jump scared. Fuck you. Now, large dark creature that insta-kills you? I wonder where we've heard that one before. Now, Zeekerss at the time had been working on a project for GDC 2014, but didn't get released until the 14th of June 2015, which he titled They Breathe. Now, time has not done this one any favours, having last been updated in 2016 and as such it's unplayable, but there is a trailer to see how the game used to work. At this point, Zeekerss had developed many games with short production cycles, and it seems that he'd figured he wanted something more substantive. So, he went silent for about half a year, and on the 6th of February 2016 released his largest Roblox game yet, Silent Dark, which has 5.4 million plays, even being nominated for a Best Single Player Game of 2016. Unfortunately, like the last game and all Roblox games today, if it hasn't been touched in years, it doesn't work. But looking from the trailer, it showed realistic hands, radios, darkness, and genuinely started to look terrifying. You can see a lot of the assets brought over from Lightbulb too, but in a 3D space. At this point, Zeekerss seems to have found the peak of what Roblox can offer for him, and has moved to itch.io and Unity to begin development on new games, starting with Too Many Asteroids. Now, this game was fairly simple and incredibly basic, but it was a start for him to understand how the engine would work, and was a great experimentation ground for future designs. It is playable, but I would forewarn you that it is very, very basic, and the easiest way to win is to actually not play. After this, Zeekerss would then vanish for a few years. The reason being that he began work on larger projects. Now, while he slowed down making YouTube videos and developing games, he was actually cooking, and he was cooking hard. In 2020, he came back with a vengeance, releasing Drive Home, which was supposed to be for a game jam for 48 hours, and then soon after It Steals, which was the first game to be released and sold on Steam. Now, do you recognise anything with this gameplay? That's right. It's the same art style which will soon become prominent in the game that we now know as Lethal Company. And he wasn't finished there. Next year in 2021, Dead Seat is released, with more monsters, more horror, more neck snapping. Hey look, that seems familiar. Oh, and people started to pay attention to this dev, be it for his old games or the unique style. Word began to spread. Oh look, a unique game, Take Your Wish, a small horror story with whatever this is. This is also the time that he set up his Twitter account, which you can see all of his tweets about his development process, as well as promoting his content over on YouTube, where you can see reactions and trailers. And then 2022 rolls around, where he goes even harder, releasing the game The Upturned. And as you can see, his art style has now been solidified, the characters are more fluid, slightly more humorous with a unique twist on a grainy footage that has become his signature piece of work, and overall you can see that he has fully solidified what becomes part of his work. And finally, on October the 23rd, 2023, Lethal Company was released. It was one of the first multiplayer games that he'd made, putting into practice everything he had learnt from Roblox to Unity to itch.io. All the game jams, the YouTube videos of the past 12 years, and finally at the age of 21, culminated with a game with over 100,000 Steam reviews rated overwhelmingly positive, over 180,000 concurrent players, and even outselling the Titan Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for over a week, on top of Cyberpunk 2077, Red Dead Redemption 2, and even EA Sports FC 24. And to add insult to injury of which, all of these games were in the Steam Autumn Sale. However, Lethal Company wasn't, being sold at full price. So now the question is, what comes next for Zeekerss? Well, for the past few years he has actually been working on a project called Welcome to the Dark Place. It looks to be a return to his single player horror style and is sitting in the library waiting to be released, and the trailer of which can be found over on his YouTube. Now, if there's anything to take away from Zeekerss' stories, it's this. While for most people, Lethal Company came out of nowhere, and some people are inclined to believe it was just a lucky break, I'd kinda beg to differ. See, we saw how he found success on Roblox, gradually getting more visits for each game, and we also see how in his itch.io projects they too got better over time. So while for most people it seems like just one lucky dev with maybe a year's worth of development, I'd argue that Zeekerss has been working on this for more than half his life. In fact, all the way back since when he first made Dark Mansion 2012 on a children's website, and then made his first video, he's been working hard year after year until eventually, after 12 years of gaming development experience with his belt at just the age of 21, he releases Lethal Company. In other words, just make things. They'll be laughable at first, but if you keep at it, who knows where you'll end up. Anyway, I've been Dextrius. You can find me over at Twitch Live. If you want to find any of my content, you can find it over on YouTube Shorts or TikTok, or of course watch all the other videos if you like. And of course, do be sure to check out Lethal Company. There are videos of it everywhere. I imagine you're already playing it. If you aren't, be sure to check out Zeekerss' YouTube channel and his Twitter if you want to see any of his future projects. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Thank you, and good night.